So hi, One of the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Rich Falling of The Sound of Animals Fighting.
And we're going to ask them some questions today about their upcoming EP, APESHIT. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
I feel great about it. It's been incredibly positive. Actually, it's landed right where I hoped it would. You know, it's always kind of nerve-wracking. Well, I can't say necessarily always, because it's not like throughout my life I've waited 15 years to put out music for every project or whatever. But I would assume in general that there's a lot of sort of mixed feelings and anticipation and sort of fear of the unknown for bands that wait multiple years to put things out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you always wonder, are they riders, or are they going to be not down and push back? But it's been overwhelmingly positive. There's been a few troll type messages, but that's the internet.
Yeah.
It's hard to hate when it's this good.
Literally.
Yeah. Shit's pretty awesome.
Dude, immaculate.
Yeah.
You have more to say?
Thank you. I was just gonna say, like, I agree with you. Like, I'm sort of unashamed about how proud I am of how it came together, because there's a lot of elements that sort of fell together in the 11th hour in making it, mostly due to just the sort of chaotic spread out nature of who's in the band and the capacity to record and when. But I think that this song and the EP in general captures all of the best stylistic components of the project. So it's sort of like if we were to stop now and not put anything else out, like, it feels like a nice clean synopsis of the albums that came before.
Makes sense.
For sure.
So obviously you kind of led this off by saying, you know, it's been a minute since you guys have put stuff out. So I'm interested to know, like, how did it all come back together, like, for you guys to reconnect?
Yeah, cool question. Yeah, just basically we had the itch to do some live shows again, and because that's always a lot of fun. And the most fun ever was the last tour, the 2019 tour. We just had so much fun as a group and hanging out, and just knew we wanted to do it again, even if it was just one more time, because we never know if there's going to be another time, just because it's like usually 4 to 5 years pass between tours. And I mean, I'm 44, so spoiler alert, like, next tour, am I going to tour when I'm 50? I don't know. Like, I'm in a midlife crisis right now. So, but it was like, we want to play some shows. We don't want to do yet another tour like 2014 and 2019 where we're touring with no new music. So we started talking about it like when everyone else started talking about it, which was during the peak of the pandemic. Everybody's at home. Hey, we might as well write some music. Like, let's be efficient about this time that we have. Of course, that just turned into talk and nothing happened. And so then basically it was, well, let's play some shows. So we booked the tour. There was no music yet. And we just put it into high gear with starting the music. But it was sort of like, let's play. We don't want to play again without new music. If you know anything about, like, the touring side of things, it's like, people stop coming out at some point if there's not new music. Yep. Which I think is where the whole anniversary of the album tour came about, because bands were trying to figure out, well, how can we get people to come out on these off years, if we tour? Well, let's tour on the 10th anniversary of a nostalgic record.
Gets them every time too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I'm there every time. I'm there for records I've never listened to.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's like a super interesting way to, like, go about, like, creating new music, is like booking the tour and being like, well, shit, now we have to do it. Like, that's an interesting way to motivate yourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Because we knew we wanted to play for sure. We are hoping we could have new music, and then booking the tour sort of lit the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Sure. So is there any meaning behind the EP title or cover art?
Good question. I've listened to some of your episodes, and when you ask that, because you've asked that question on other episodes,
Yeah.
and yeah, the one I listened to just earlier tonight, and I thought about when I heard that question, I was like, huh, I wonder if they would ask a question like that. Oop, I lost that. Um, so like on a lot of like music podcasts I listen to, like one of the ones I like on my drive to work is like the Krista Makes podcast, which the dude from Less Than Jake or whatever. And often like when he analyzes these like huge songs from bands, often what the common denominator is that these songs come together in like 15 minutes time, like bands slave over music, but then like the one top 40 hit is like somehow just came together, right? So
Yeah.
where I'm going with that is like the cover art came together in a similar way to that. It was like the only way I could describe it is I was daydreaming about what would be on the cover, and all at once the image of a horse upside down floating by this pink balloon just like all together came into my head. I called up Mike from Born Losers and I was like, hey, can you like make this image happen? And he did. And so, you know, I really like a clean aesthetic, like a simple, minimal aesthetic. And so we just went with that sort of icon for the new music. As far as the title, it's a name I've been playing around with for quite a while, thinking that I might name a project after that. And so you just like sort of like song ideas, creatives as y'all, I'm sure, like with the podcast or anything else that you're doing, like you daydream about stuff and you start keeping a running list of creative ideas for later or whatever. And so yeah, I had that word. And then when it was time to sort of brainstorm titles for this EP, I was thinking, okay, like what does this EP symbolize? And it symbolizes like a renewal, a resurgence, like a, you know, the return of this musical institution that's a couple decades old, but like we want it to feel fresh and like full of energy. And so that word emerged from my running list, and it was like perfect because it was a single word. It sort of has a punch. It has like impact. The energy's there just by the nature of the word. It's like kind of a cool balance of crude profanity, but not really. And then like the eighth portion is conveniently animal related. So it just was one of those things where it's like the image and then the name and then putting it out there with like in a white frame just came together in a very short amount of time.
Wow.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. I'm glad it all kind of came together. And like when I think about the band, this is totally how I think about it. And you could tell me I'm crazy. That's fine. But like, I think sounds of animals fighting. I think like it's apes or monkeys and like they're going ape shit. So it feels like in my brain, it all comes together for me because that's the sound that I think of when I think of your band name.
Yeah, that's cool and entirely appropriate. And yeah, part of my long ramble there was like sort of towards the end of it all, I'm thinking at the very least it captures the energy of the animals fighting. So it's like and we like that we hope that we put on a good live show that's full of energy. We like to jump around and things. So just like in general, it felt really like a really good way to stamp like the return.
For sure.
You know.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this EP?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like it's a return to form. So like in 2004, 2005, when we did Tiger and the Duke, the very first EP, really it was like, okay, everybody's in different bands, everybody's super busy, everybody lives all over the place. So like, what is the most efficient way to pull off a project like this? And that is, mailing files back and forth, essentially. And so, well, how do you do that if you can't get into a garage and like hammer out the initial skeleton of the songs? And so like solution minded, I'm thinking, okay, let's start with the drums. So like if we just have the drummer, Chris Sagakis, play a couple hours worth of just awesome beats and record it, then we can take sections, build a song out of the section. So essentially like not as simple as verse, chorus, verse, but you would identify sections that you would repeat. And then you'd send that structure to the guitars, to the bass, and then finally to the vocals. And a song can be born just layering off what was given to you. And so I've said this before in like other interviews and stuff, but I really do, I do think it captures like the whole process. And that is, when you think of collaboration, it's like, this is its purest form, because you're able to sort of express yourself by any means necessary, but you are bound to what you've been given. So there's like no rules, but you're forced to expand upon your colleagues' work. And so it's truly like a freeing yet fully collaborative process. So that was the process. What's interesting is this started out as a 7-inch. And this is the first podcast that I've gone into this sort of thing about. So exclusive here on Good Noise. But it's not that interesting. So it started out as a 7-inch because we're like, again, like, all right, we're touring, we want to new music, but we're busier than ever. Anthony, like, when you think about busy, like, I just don't even, my head wants to
tried nailing that guy down to talk about his solo album. Didn't happen.
Nope.
Yeah. Just absolute insanity, right? So like, we were thinking, okay, 2 songs, like, I'll do the lead vocals on one, he'll do the lead vocals on the other, he'll only have to worry about one thing, and hopefully on a day off from tour we can just like make it all happen. And so then that seed was planted with the rhythm section, and they got to work going back to that format of the Tiger and the Duke, where we started with the drums and built upward, because we've actually, even though the band was built on that platform, the following records, even though they're highly experimental, didn't really adhere to that specific formula. And so it was kind of cool to go back to that. And that's sort of why on the APESHIT single, it really does sound and feel like that era of the band, because we were really towing the line. But anyway, so what were we talking about?
Writing process.
We were talking about writing process.
You were diving into like how it was supposed to be a 7-inch.
Yeah, 7-inch.
Yeah, 7-inch.
Yes. I knew we were in the writing process category, but I was like, where did this ramble start? Okay, so I have a tendency to get on a soapbox. Not today. Today's not a soapbox day. It's like a ramble day. But
okay.
Exactly,
so
you're good.
yeah. So yeah, okay. So 7-inch. So yeah. So we had that all fleshed out. Well, sort of back to Anthony's insane schedule. We got the final songs to him probably a little later than I was hoping, but still doable. He had some time to do it, but then he had the solo tour that he was doing with Laura Jane Grace and Tim Kasher from Cursive, that whole tour.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of all of that, LS Dunes, which I kind of knew was like a thing, but I didn't know that there was an album done with a specific release date and like touring around, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that sort of dropped. into the middle of this. And then When We Were Young festival is happening, and
Yep.
Seosin's on that. And so
Mhm.
Seosin's doing dates leading up to that. And then he's doing soundtracks for Blue's Clues movies. I mean, this is just
I
Can't
don't
be
know how that,
stopped.
like, I want to talk to that man so bad. Not even like
Yeah.
about like just a solo work. I just want to know how he manages a schedule like that. Like, how do you
It's
stay sane?
insane.
But
Yeah. Well, maybe on this tour, if you are you guys in Philly or New York?
I'm in Philly, Philly area.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
in Virginia.
Okay, so on the East Coast, but if you either of you or both of you end up linking up and coming out to a show, maybe we can you could do like a live, not a live, but like live recorded conversation with him or something, just to pick his brain about
nail him down for a couple of minutes. Make him put the phone down.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it's just like, okay, I knew about this band, and don't forget fucking whatever, which is like a whole nother thing.
Oh my
and
God.
then, so when I saw his post about Blues Clues, I was like, what? This is just like, think of the most, like, the next layer of just craziness that you could put on top of that dude's already crazy schedule, and that would be it. Anyway, this led to a series of delayed pushing back of timelines, pushing back of deadlines, wondering if we were going to be able to get these songs done in time. We knew we'd get them done by the tour. That wasn't an issue, but it takes a lot of time to press vinyl now.
Yeah.
Because there still is a very limited amount of manufacturers that actually do it. And so we had a hard deadline if we were going to be able to print vinyl that would then be able to be sold at the shows. And so because of these delays, and because he'd be like, okay, I started it, but I got to leave for this tour now. And it's like, it's impossible to record when you're on the road. I mean, some bands try to demo on their off days and stuff, but it's really difficult to get like an actual record recorded. So anyway, long story short, because of those delays, I hit up Matt and Chris and was like, hey, do y'all have any like songs that you've like started to mess with that are maybe more electronic in nature that we could turn this from a 7-inch into an EP by adding 2 more songs? And they're like, yeah, and so there were a couple songs that they had been messing around with for a while, and that helped us be able to corral some of the other guys that had sang on previous records, like Keith Goodwin from Good Old War, or who also plays in Anthony's solo band like a lot. And I think produced Boom Done actually for Anthony.
Oh, wow.
And then Matthew Kelly, who did one of our more popular songs, The Heretic. He did vocals for that. So like, anyway, long story short, it went from a 7-inch to an EP almost overnight, because Keith and Matthew, I called up those guys and I was like, hey, I don't know when we're going to get Anthony's vocals, but let's pretend like we're going to get them in 2 days. Can you add vocals to these other songs by tomorrow? And they're like, yeah. And so like a day later, I had those guys like vocal performances. And so it all came together rather quickly, to be honest. And then Matt Embry, who plays guitar in the band, mixed it. And so as we're waiting for files to come in, he's like prepping the mix as best he can based on the music that we had gotten. And that way, when Anthony's vocals finally came in, all we would have to do is fly them into the mix, maybe sit on it for a day, and then send it to the factory. So that's what happened. And interestingly enough, my last statement about this is that really it came down to Anthony's final day home before leaving on what would be the next like 3 months of his life, because he had that Ellis Dunes, Christmas, some more solo stuff, Seosin, and then our shows in January. And so it was the day before he was going to leave to do all that. and he came through with his vocals, and in a completely unbiased opinion, is one of his better performances in recent years, lyrically and in terms of melody. I feel like he killed it. All that is to say, pressure is sometimes healthy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And sometimes our best work happens, our meaning like humans. Definitely me for sure. When I am forced to do something, sometimes it happens in its best form.
For sure. My follow-up question was going to be like, can we get a timeline of events here? Because you started talking about like When We Were Young Fest and like LS doing shows, and like the LS Student Tour is happening right now. When We Were Young Fest just happened. So I was curious as to how down to the wire you guys were, and I got an idea when you said like the next 3 months of Anthony's life. Like this was like up to like last month, right? Or like,
100%.
that's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 100%. It was like so like we started recording everything, like the instruments and stuff, probably in like July, and then we had everything ready for Anthony like mid-August. And originally we were told by Born Losers, hey, like your deadline for vinyl is like mid-October. So I was thinking, okay, we've got like 3-4 weeks for Anthony to record one song. This is doable. You know what I mean? This is doable, especially because we were still in 7-inch mode. But then when it got really close to October and we hadn't had, the vocals yet, I was like, well, let's do something with this time. Let's add 2 more songs, get people that are home and not on tour to get vocals back to us. And so, yeah, it was down to the wire. I honestly, I haven't had a panic attack, like a legit one, in probably like over a decade. And at the end of this process, like I ended up in the hospital like probably like 3 weeks ago, because I internalized this stuff, and like it is like just takes over. And I'm just glad that it's here, and there's a lot of other things going on. So I don't think it was just that, but I definitely think it might have been like the catalyst that just like
and
sent me into a breakdown.
The craziest thing was early before this interview started, we were joking about you falling off the chair, changing the light. That didn't even happen, and then you actually wound up in the hospital, maybe because of the CEP. So I hope you're doing better.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite lyric or moment off this EP, and what does it mean to you?
My favorite lyric. So the lyrics that I wrote primarily are like the Sharon Tate track, which I'm going to leave kind of ambiguous for now. What really strikes a chord with me is on Anthony's APESHIT, like the core. I guess it's a chorus. It's a very proggy song in terms of structure, but he says, truth be told, I never wanted to be in control. Truth is, I never thought I was worth it. And like part of why I like that so much is the melody itself. Like the way he sings it gives me chills. It's like the kind of stuff that makes you want to take the long way home when like a song's playing and you're like, oh, I can't pull in yet. It's not finished.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one of those parts. And I am always attracted to like the sad, self-loathing type lyrical content and song vibe. And so I don't even know what the I never wanted to be in control means necessarily, but that second part, I never thought I was worth it, just seems like very perfectly sad to me.
Yeah.
And so then I take that and I connect it to the being in control, and I can imply all these ambiguous sort of self meaning to it, like we do with anything we listen to. But that's my favorite lyric on the album, is that, and a lot of it has to do with the combination of the words and the melody. But um so
So when we were talking like about the writing process and all this shit, you said that when Anthony sent in his stuff, you were impressed both lyrically and by his performance. So across the board with all the vocalists on the record, did they kind of write their part, send in the vocal track, and that was the first time that you heard what they had to say in terms of lyrics?
for sure.
Okay. So like
wow.
it's just
For
kind of
sure.
like you go do your thing, whatever comes back we work with.
Yeah, fill in the blank.
Yeah, exactly. So like in general, like in a very broad sense, that's the spirit of the project since the beginning. However, the couple albums in the middle, Ocean and the Sun and Lover the Lord Has Left Us, there was a lot more like mechanics and technician type work from the production end. Like nothing that would ever change anyone's vision, because part of why this project's fun for us is because it is kind of like a vacation from other bands that come with expectations. And so a lot of our other bands, it's like after 5 albums or something, you're like locked into a sound, and you can experiment, sure, but like
They're not gonna like it.
or yeah, they might not like it or whatever. So there's other things to consider, whereas this is just like whatever. With that said, those other 2 albums in the middle, there might have been some massaging or nuance shifting or things that are like, oh, I think this might help it if we do this, like type conversations. Whereas that didn't happen on the first EP. It was like whatever came in is what we used, unless it was so far left field that it no longer felt like the overarching vision was intact. At which point I could come in and say, this doesn't feel right, but I never had to do that. So with this now, going on 20 years of collaborating in different capacities and different bands together and different projects and everything, we're very trusting of one another. We all sort of have figured out what is appropriate to do where, like musically speaking, that's like tasteful and stuff. And so I have full confidence that what comes back is going to be good. Now, with that said, all of this stuff really defied my expectations because, again, with the time crunch, you don't really know what you're getting. So when stuff gets turned around, I mean, like Keith Goodwin just sings on like one part of one song, and it's like a bridge, and the lyrics just like, maybe I'm in too deep, what's coming over me, or something like that. But the lyric or the execution is so spot on, and the dude did it in less than a day. I reached out to him in the morning. I was like, any chance you could add to this today? He's like, yeah, I'll have something by tonight. And he did. And it's like incredible. And so in some respects, it was like, yeah, we accepted whatever came, but that could have gone horribly wrong. It just so happened that the stars were also aligned in this.
A lot came together for this to happen. I'm sensing here.
Yeah, for sure.
So where was your headspace at while you guys were creating this EP?
Stressing about probably all the stuff that's not musical. So like, wondering when Anthony is going to be able to like track and stuff, like those sorts of like very mechanical calendarizing thoughts kind of like invaded my headspace. But then when it came time to track, with APESHIT, Anthony just executed, man. He went in and killed it. And so when I got those, I was like, okay, he left a few parts untouched. And I'm not somebody who's like, we've got to fill the space, because sometimes it's all about the space. But there were a few places where I was like, in order for this to really feel cohesive and not rushed, maybe I'll add a little tad here, a little tad there. So there's some transitions in APESHIT where there's sort of like a more ghost-like vocal a la White Pony for production convenience sake that I added in there as like sort of like a glue. But then also there's like one section after his first verse that was like felt really naked. And I was like, well, I'm not hearing a vocal line here. But on our first EP, again, because this felt very much like that same energy, we had 2 songs on there where I read passages from a book.
Oh, wow.
So there's spoken word sections. And so on APESHIT, there's it's buried in the mix, but it's like taking up the right frequency, the right space. So there's like a nuanced headspace there. I'm reading passages from this book, The White Hotel, that I just discovered. It's really cool. But then when it came time for the Sharon Tate thing, it was just like, listen to the music and go through that process where you sort of hum along and then replace the humming with words.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I can say confidently about being where I am today, I've got, kids, I've had to work a day job, I'm like in my 40s, right? So like, I feel really confident at this point in my musical journey about writing lyrics. And so I'm very proud about how the lyrics flow, the vocabulary that's being used, how it's like lending itself to melody, but also not like just pointless syllables to make the melody, which is what so many bands do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm in an excited headspace. I was excited then. It was like coupled with stress about deadlines. But I think that's healthy, even if it ends in the hospital.
Fair enough.
Well,
But the deadlines are over now. The next thing is getting in a bus together.
yeah.
Yeah, which is always a lot of fun. But you know what? Here I am stressing about ticket sales. I'm like, dude, like, is anybody, because we're hitting certain cities that we've never hit before. One thing we wanted to do is we wanted to hit Chicago this time, which Chicago's doing pretty well. But like, so we have to go from Dallas to Chicago. Where do we stop in between?
Mm-hmm.
And so our booking agent's like, well, let's do St. Louis. And that sounded exciting to me. But of course, like, I don't hear fans from St. Louis necessarily breaking down our door over the years. So I don't know how that's going to do.
Yeah.
And so, tickets are a little slow in some of those cities. But hopefully by the time the tour happens, it'll be better. I know that like it's just a totally different world than even 2019, like the pre versus post pandemic, if that's what you want to call it. Like, it's how everybody functions and thinks and prioritizes is just totally different. I know that's like kind of a cliche conversation to have, but like it was interesting to me. I didn't think that the one thing that made sense to me is that the cage had been opened and now every band in the universe is trying to tour. That makes logical sense to me. Yeah. However, what I didn't know until experiencing this is that people are like there's the first week of ticket sales is really important because you're trying to capture people that are like super excited.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that first week, it pretty much is like dead until the show happens.
Yeah.
And then like at the time of the show, people like buy tickets. So like if it's not the Taylor Swift frenzy, if it's just a normal show at like your local House of Blues, more often than not, like 9 out of 10 people are waiting to get tickets for like the day of. Like, it's just not something people don't plan. It's like people changed how they plan all of a sudden.
Well, it's like, we're all still kind of like in this pandemic mindset where it's like, you might not be able to fucking go. Like something's like you're either gonna get sick or something's gonna happen, and you're like, well, I'll just buy tickets to the door. But
Yeah.
you guys are also kind of touring in a weird time because like the tickets go on sale. People got to shop for Christmas,
Oh,
money's
for
tight, all that
sure.
shit. So it's like the ticket sales. You guys are going to be fine. Like I don't know the ticket numbers, but I'm going to assume it's been a couple of years since you've been on the road and there's new music. I have a feeling that you guys will be all right, but I think it'll be it'll be even closer to the wire than normal just because of how in the new year it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the holidays, and then also, back to just Anthony's like grind. It's so hardcore right now. It's like, we release a new song, and the day after 20 years of never putting it on vinyl, Theosin releases the original EP on vinyl. It's like we can't win, dude.
Can't
It's
win.
like,
You can't win.
like we announce our tour, and then like the next day, it's like there's an LS Dunes, freaking limited packet. It's just like it's crazy. But yeah, I think we have a really cool fan base, and it's really a dedicated fan base. So hopefully we'll at least do this. I never know what's in the future. I'm hoping that because of the strength of the EP that we'll get another record out of ourselves. And if and when that happens, I can only assume we'd play live, but because the EP was so hard to make happen, I just want to stay real about it. I just don't know if there'll ever be anything else, if there'll be another tour. And like I said, I'm happy to end on this if we have to, but one of the biggest motivators for touring this time is I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I want them to see what dad did before he was a dad.
Oh, yeah.
And they were around for the last tour, but they were still just like slightly young enough to where they were like falling asleep in the middle of the set, not totally remembering the experience. So I want them to at least have this experience. So I'm excited for that.
That's going to be awesome.
That should be amazing. Yeah. Oh. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this EP for the first time? Should they play it in the car with friends, start with headphones on? Should they blast at a party, work out to it? What do you personally recommend?
That's a great question. A very unique question. Geez, I'll be selfish and just describe like my perfect. I love being alone in the car, or even like laying on the floor with the lights out and like really devoting my focus to it. So I would hope that while I do think it's appropriate to blast out the party, to hit it while you're on the treadmill, whatever, I do hope that people like give it that focus for the first time and just like take it all in, take in all the parts, respect and appreciate the melodies and things, and form their opinion, and then do whatever else after that.
Sure. So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe the CP for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
Oh. Am I describing it to fans or people that have never heard the band?
You're pitching it to a person who's never heard of you guys before.
Oh, dang. Okay, so eclectic.
Okay.
Energized. And nothing's gonna feel right for the last one. Ambitious.
Ooh.
Nice. I was hoping you keep with the E's, but you were
Yeah.
out of like positive E words,
Yeah. I love alliteration too. I love going for the repetition of the beginning sounds. I should have picked up on that.
It's all right.
So is there a certain feeling or emotion you want this EP to invoke in your listeners?
Yeah, like a motivation, would be the catalyst for like having a better day, like just like a positive force. I love music because like when I listen to like a great song, it makes me like want to be a part of it. It makes me want to like be enveloped by it and then go out into the world and be that song, you know? And so I want that to be what people, you know, they hear it and they're just like, dang, that's awesome. I feel like ready to take on the world, as cheesy as that might sound.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
So what is your favorite memory that you made while creating this EP?
Uh, Favorite memory was just, it's always fun to me, like getting on the phone and like talking through parts, like after they've been delivered. Like, you know, um, Matt adds guitar to the drums, and then we get on the phone and he's like, what did you think about this? I can change this, I can do this, whatever. And just like having that human creative collaboration conversation.
Mhm.
It reminds you that you're like close to other people, because like we just are more and more divided. And like I'm in Dallas, I've been here like 17 years, but like all of my lifelong friends are still like in California or like somewhere
Mhm.
else. Like it's harder and harder to make close friends as an adult. So most of my close friends are, you know, out of state. And so then when I'm engaged in a process like this, where I'm talking regularly to them and we're like creating something together, we're building something together, there's like a closeness and a conversation and a fulfillment that happens that's like reminds me of how fun life can be.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's perfect. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. You're going in. What is your snack of choice?
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nerds rope.
Nerds rope.
Yeah.
That's
The ner-
perfect.
the
Nice.
Nerds rope. I love you know, I've always been a fan of like gummies and like the Willy Wonka candies and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And there's something insanely satisfying about like the texture and like the flavors of the Nerds rope that I like. I'm also like I probably would have said like Red Bull or something, because I'm a sucker for the different colors of the cans and like it's almost like this weird self-medication process we go through when we walk into 7-Eleven and we go to the refrigerated section and we see all the products that have, they're like the vitamin waters and like the Red Bulls, and they all have like 5 to 10 different colors that all come with different vitamins. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a satisfaction that comes with like self-medicating, like, oh, I think I need like the power C with dragon fruit today, you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And then you pick it out or whatever. So I do like that. However, um with the whole anxiety thing and stuff, I've been trying to really kick the caffeine, so I
Mhm.
haven't been on the Red Bull as much lately. But
So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
oh my goodness, um the band would be a hamburger.
Hmm.
And this is just my metaphor mind talking and just trying to come up with something.
Can it be a
Everybody has their distinct layer and function,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a layer. Like you look at the hamburger and you can see the different layers at work, but they all work together,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all sort of clean layers. They stack nicely on each other, and when taken at once, you get like the big picture and you taste how they all the layers complement each other.
nice? That's a
Oh
good
yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you
Uh,
not just being like burger
Yeah.
because there's layers. You fucking explained it,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate that.
Killed that.
Yeah, like and I was gonna say, like, not just like a trashy burger either, because you
Mm-hmm.
know, like there's a difference between like the one on the billboard, which you
Mm-hmm.
would get at like more of like a craft hamburger house, then like the Burger King burger that's like where the cheese is melted and it's covering the other layers and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like smashed and it's like,
Are they beating the
so
burgers back there? Like, I think they
Oh
put it in the
yeah.
bun and then they go like this with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking hamburger like at a nice restaurant that you
Okay.
where you can really see the layers,
Okay.
Yeah.
You-
Maybe there's even like that toothpick
I
that
was
goes
gonna say
down
the
the
fancy
middle.
little toothpick. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I could say that I'm the toothpick because really my goal is to just keep the layers on top of each other, not change how they taste, but like keep them together.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And does this burger have pickles?
Uh, do you like pickles?
I'm asking you this question.
And if you give the wrong answer, this interview's
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I didn't picture pickles when I was picturing this hamburger.
Okay.
However, when I was a kid, and I crushed the McDonald's like any kid would, I always enjoyed those weird lukewarm pickles that I always liked those.
The pickles that are for some reason right next to the fryer,
It's a little confusing, but they're good.
Yeah. So maybe these pickles are in there and they're the secret ingredient because you can't see them from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So.
All right.
Perfect. So for these last couple questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh, dude.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is really strange, but I discovered at Trader Joe's. Do you guys have Trader Joe's where you live?
I know what it is. I've never been in one, though.
It's just like a Whole Foods, but it's like much smaller, right?
And way more expensive.
Yeah,
Way
everything
more
is so
expensive.
expensive.
Yeah. So Trader Joe's has these Vietnamese scallion pancakes, and they're like
Ooh.
they
I
come
love
in like
those.
a 5-pack,
Mhm.
and they're really thin, and they're really freaking good. And
Mhm.
so I've been crushing these Vietnamese scallion pancakes like 3 at a time, like maybe 3 to 6 a day. Like it's like my
That's fair.
normal meal for
Yeah.
like the last month.
Yeah.
So right now, if you ask that question, which you did, I would say the Trader Joe's Vietnamese scallion pancakes. Now, if I wasn't being obscure like that, I would just say Thai food.
Yep.
And then to drink, maybe like maybe a Red Bull because well, no, I don't know. Do I want to be wired on death row? Maybe like a standard cherry Kool-Aid or something, but definitely like the Thai food.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Good pick.
So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
In a fictional world?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would live in Adventure Time and want to meet the lumpy space princess.
That sounds amazing.
Or be an honorary Powerpuff Girl.
Nice.
There you go. That is a correct
Nice.
answer.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes.
There's my phone case is like the Powerpuff.
It's the Powerpuff
Oh,
Girls.
that's cool.
Who's your favorite Powerpuff Girl?
Oh, that's hard. Bubbles,
Mhm.
probably.
Bubbles? Based.
Yeah.
That's good. I love Bubbles.
I was so excited for that live action one because I knew it would probably be trash, but I'm I'm like a Dove Cameron fan, and so I was like, okay, if they cast her, this could be fun.
Mhm.
It didn't even make it off the.
No, the second the photos got leaked, it was scrapped.
Yeah, like everybody just trashed it. It's just like, what did they expect? But
exactly, yeah, it was rough.
Yeah,
it was rough.
Yeah.
So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Ooh, there's
What
pressure.
is your favorite color?
Pink. Easy.
Pink. Okay.
100%.
So you're not a Blossom fan because that's her color.
Yeah, no. So I guess like when I think in terms of decor and like things I like to wear and like just in general, pink is by far my favorite. But I think with the Bubbles and the Powerpuff Girls, it's more just like the vibe and personality of the girl.
Yeah.
and not so much the color, but yeah, pink. That's an easy one.
That's
Fair
good.
enough.
So
Yeah, in fact, like when Kylie Jenner released her like Kylie Skin line, like I've been avidly collecting like almost everything she releases because it's like the perfect shade of pink. I
yeah,
have
that's
like
fair.
I even have one of those little makeup refrigerators.
Oh,
And they're perfect for Red Bull, actually. They keep them really cold. But it's
Life hack.
really
yeah,
though.
dude, it's the perfect shade of pink. I was so excited during the pandemic when she released like masks that said Kylie across the front. Like, anyway,
That's
I love
great.
that. I love that so much.
So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I would just say that also last Friday, just a couple days ago, Bored Losers again released a brand new project from me called Hospital Gown is the project. And so the Instagram for that is hospital_gown_official. And it's a really eclectic sort of poppy project that I'm excited to explore more in the future.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
Well, thank you for now. It's been Rich from The Sound of Animals Fighting, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.